What is up, adventurers, and welcome to a brand new ShawnSetGO video. Today, we're going to be talking about a class that isn't warrior, and it's a very sad day. But no, today's a different day because I figured in my coming back video and just actually talking about WoW once again, we have a lot of things to celebrate. We have the things of increased drop rates for mounts, unless you're a collector, of course. Sorry, people like touchpad, and not really much opportunity for you to get new things already, but the greedy emissary runs, it's just interesting and fun kind of cosmetics as well. A lot of people kind of just taking some time to relax from getting their 3k IO and kind of pushing to get their gear score and stuff like that up. So it's nice. I think that these things are nice, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about a class that is getting a lot of attention and maybe in the wrong way, and of course that being Death Knights. There's gonna be a lot of like, I don't necessarily get it, but I'm gonna try to understand it with you guys and then try to kind of come up with solutions as well. As somebody who's been on the bad side of, I mean, every class, we can all understand maybe there is problems. So let's talk about some of those right now. So the first thing that came up that I think I'm gonna help to understand this with memes. This is I hate wound. It says I hate the wound system. Applying up to 6 festering wounds. Improved festering strike is now a 1-point talent. Applying 2 festering wounds. Apply festering wounds and more AoE more. The wound system feels bad since forever. They should take it down and make unholy DK about summoning and disease. I was like, so let me look into this. Let me see what exactly is the problem with the wound system. So I looked it up. It says someone asked the exact question. This person says they're clunky, frustrating to build and to use. Build has done and added so much to make them work and viable, and there's still no fun to use. They're hard to balance due to quadratic scaling. Basically, from my understanding, quadratic scaling is like basically the more input, the more output. So it becomes difficult to balance because it can become overpowering with how much it can do, but makes it slow to build up because of it. And then it says all the tinkering and developing on the ability just at its core is flawed. All that time we could have been used to make better things. Hashtag delete wounds. And then this one says budget classic combo points. So I can understand if it's like that as well, especially if the idea with the combo points, I guess the benefit is that you're able to kind of, you're holding on to that power. It's where you distribute it. That's up to you. Whereas with festering wounds, it's kind of like, you know, you're investing into this one mob and you can't really like just jump around with it. So that's like, I can already see why this is a problem. But let's look at some of the comments here. It says this, the wounds. Absolutely. It says, in my opinion, Unholy DK has the best class fantasy of any spec and the most absolute terrible dog gameplay. This is bad and feel to go with it. Only been 10 years of the same complaints though. Wouldn't bet on it changing anytime soon. Ooh, I've heard it. It is. I thought I was in the Monster Hunter subreddit for a second. I don't mind the wound system too much, but I hate how low impact all the DK sounds are. Every sound FX makes me feel like I'm literally swinging a pool noodle around. The wounds, they will not heal. Grip's not a hashtag. Grip is not a raid buff. I hate tracking wounds. Honestly, I am no unholy main by any means, and I think I'll never pick it because it has too many resources to track. For me, tracking wounds feels like a worse combo point system. It's more thematic, but feels worse. I mean, this is another thing, like side tangent. You know, we talk about the many things that I think that we need to address or kind of hold Blizzard like accountable for. And I think one of the main things that Automatic Jack was talking about recently in the PTR was that like, hey, if you're going to hold to what you said before and you're going to say no more tracking cooldowns in party feature. So like we're handling it and we're not going to have a billion things for you to track in response to that. Then why do we have things that in the PTR like trinkets like Nexus King command, which says directly healing, it says, or so become oathbound to a nearby ally every 30 seconds. Direct healing the ally fulfills the oath to grant you 9.6k intellect for 10 seconds and intellect. Oh my gosh, shields you, your ally for 100% of over healing done. So you'd want to track that, right? Sorry, by the way, my brain's not fully there yet. I'm still like recovering from the hospital, so like I'm like trying to balance painkillers and intellect right now. But this is exactly the opposite of what they said they're going to do, which is killing the massive amount of tracking that you have to do as a player, and then just having something like this in our near future. It's like, so I only need to track that then, right? And then as a player who has to track resources constantly, like, man, this sounds like a lot. So I still finally remember Unholy and WoD Necrotic Blight build was peak. I get that I'm the odd one here, but I don't actually mind the wound system. Okay, so that's good. It's good to hear. I don't understand why so many people hate it. If wounds don't pop when the target died, I get it. Then they just be like the old version of rogue combo points, but they pop automatically when the enemy dies, granting you all the benefits. I'd rather have them pop automatically than follow me from mob to mob. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of it. Just kind of keep on going. We feel like we always need to have them up before hitting Scourge Strike, but that isn't strictly true. There are situations where you can just ignore them. Figuring that out is part of solving it. Okay. This person says, I like wounds. My biggest problem with Unholy, the 4 to 5 button setup where you start doing damage, and the AoE being heavily dependent on a ground-based effect with a long cooldown. Cries and Affliction of Destra, where my AoE is dependent on a ground-based effect and with a 10-second longer CD and only a single charge. Compared to what I'm used to, Unholy actually feels luxurious. Wow. Okay. I found this to be one of the most fun DPS specs. This sort of sounds like people are forcing themselves to play the spec for the theme rather than the gameplay, which is a choice, I guess. Which I understand that. I totally get it. For me, I could make a similar comparison with something like wrong scene. With something like Warrior. I personally prefer Fury, but I've jumped into Arms recently just because target cap. But I will never like Arms the same as much as I like Fury. I like the feel of Fury much better. So I've never been a personal fan. Now I could suck it up and just be like, hey, I like this better, so I'll play better most likely because I enjoy this more. But the target cap, you start to feel that very soon, and you start to feel that pull away. I was like, why is this always so tough to maintain? So it's just so for me, I get that wanting to have a feel you enjoy, like, or have it match a theme that you personally enjoy, is understandable. I totally get that as an idea. But let's look at the next one. The next one, also being a meme, says when being forgotten would be preferable. Remove wounds and give raid buff. We've noticed wounds are a problem and plan to rework. Oh, really? Dang it. This says grip is a raid buff. We're removing abomination limb and target capping you. Dang it. And this is one of the things that I personally have disliked. I don't think the way, for example, to fix Fury is to target cap everybody. I think the way is to go like, why are we trying to target cap anyone? So something must be horribly imbalanced. Otherwise, this is the only reason. Like, to me, it seems lazy when you target cap somebody. But the other part of it being that grip is a raid buff, and I was like, wait, grip is a raid buff? Like, I don't understand. So apparently, Potty C, Liquid Max, on the DK situation, basically he said, I don't understand why don't they just give DKs a 2% rated wide haste buff, because after reading their mindset with Death Grip being a raid buff, I'm pretty sure we'll handle the next tier by just bringing 2 blood DKs and never bringing DPS DK. Kind of unfortunate, but like the whole idea of basically, maybe it was better that we just didn't complain about wounds if this was the result, right? Because we get all these negative things along with it. Somebody as well pulled up a list of reasons that why this is a bad idea. It says, despite Blizzard's claim of making Death Grip a raid buff and designing the raid around the idea of it being a raid buff, PTR testers have already found and noticed via testing and reading the fight design that Death Grip will find 0 usefulness in the entire 8 boss raid. So these are the other issues. Like, people resonate in a large way with Death Grip having importance. And for those of you who are like, well, it hasn't had importance in a long time, people are like, well, let's have something else. But let's see what people are saying. It says, having recently done all the fights on normal, I thought it would be a good idea to detail the fights where grip is functionally useless or mediocre at best. It should be noted that these change on heroic and mythic iterations, but not all these have been tested yet. I wanted to at least start on normal and then can go back. Plexus, Sentinel. There are no adds. Grips serve 0 purpose here. Lumithar, 0 adds at the fight across all fights. Grip is not useful. Soulbinder says, these are a lot really hard to pronounce, by the way. When the ads are broken by the lines in the cages, they are grip immune. If their channel goes off, they can be gripped, but they usually move and have an aggro table, so grip is very meh. So basically, kind of, it's very balanced with what is already exists in the game to be done. It's not any better than what already exists. Forge Weave, Araz, the orbs are grippable. However, they go on players that can deposit them all in one spot or overlap. Grip is useless here. Soul Hunters, no ads at all in any difficulty. Fractalist, no ads at all in any difficulty. Nexus King, Saladar. There are ads on the platform for you to teleport to. However, they are already grouped together. Multiple trash mobs are immune to grip. That is whatever, just annoying. Basically, we have 3 bosses with 0 grip mechanics, 3 with questionable grips that currently in the design could be replaced with something else or are possibly not needed at all. Plexus, which may use grip on Mythic, Demencius, which is TBD. Overall, I'm not saying how grip provides DK with a raid buff. The fights do not appear to be truly designed in a way that DK would be a good choice to handle how the ads are in the current state. And I feel like this comes from a position of Blizzard, and I think it's somewhat reasonable, right? Where basically they don't want to give any particular class a reason to be picked, I guess, statistically or over others, when you want everyone like, oh yeah, you can pick any type of tank in this situation, because all have a purpose in this, like for this raid, right? So like, for example, like as warrior, often I don't know why people invite me, you know, I mean, they haven't seen my DPS, they don't know how good I am. But additionally, like I only offer a battle shout, so I assume it's battle shout. So I gotta assume it's something along those reasons that would be that'd be why, I guess. So let's look at some of the comments though. This says, it truly feels like the devs hate this spec and community who play it. I mean, originally, right, it was Unholy was on top. Like, I mean, if we're talking about like back in Wrath, right? And then like people are like, well, Frost is like falling behind, and then they implemented things to make Frost better, and there was like some balance there, right? So it's like they've been on top, or they were considerably on top since the beginning. So I wonder why there's been such a flip. You know, maybe it's just like things too good for too long and they're not mage, so it's like so you can't have it again. And truly feels like they have to hate this spec and the community who play it. So much feedback on the recent PTR feels spiteful. Oh, you don't like our bad changes? We'll have more. I'm not sure if this punishment for being meta for a season or what, but I don't care about being meta. I just want to enjoy this spec. I'm not sure what the devs have in mind with that at all. Meanwhile, Blood DKs have only been in meta in really one season since 8.0, and they're still catching nerfs with little to no compensation. Blood at least feels fun to play. Interesting. Okay, gotcha. Are they really removing a bomb limb? They're removing it, yes, but they're turning it into Legion of Souls, which replaces Army of the Dead and applies festering wounds to enemies around you. It does decent damage instead. So they're kind of condensing, it sounds like. Okay, that's not too bad, right? Are they keeping the visual effect? It looks cool. It would suck if it goes away. So far, it seems yes. It is the same effect. It's just now a bigger cooldown for disease builds instead of Raise a Bomb for minion builds. Ooh. More accurately, Raise a Bomb is a single target ability, and Legion of Souls is an AoE ability. Both apply wounds to targets they hit, but a bomb has more direct damage. Legion of Souls is more wound application. If the single target build is disease focused, you would still be running a bomb. Okay, so maybe not so, I guess changes. Maybe people are not super excited for it, but it seems like it's still kind of being kept somewhat in there, I guess. We prefer you don't play Unholy right now. Looks like we're all rolling for Frost next tier, boys. You know what is great? Playing Blood DK and always catching strays from updates direct to Unholy. Losing floppy hands, 3% haste, and 1 minute 30 a minute AMZ is BS. Laughs and Fury Warrior. I mean, I feel a lot of sympathy for the situation, because as a warrior who's very upset by the position of Fury, often it's like, yeah, I get it, you know. So I understand, especially, you know, like my fellow plate wearers and my fellow like two-handed, you know, DPS, etc. It's definitely not a good feeling, because it's like, if they're coming for you, like, I mean, what happens when you guys like change over to warrior? Like, wait, please don't change over, please. So let's look a little bit more at the comments of the potty C. It says, as someone who plays Blood DK as main, grips are so situational. Like, it's annoying when I see something that you would think is grippable but isn't. Part of me wonders to see if the world where no tanks or healers bring a raid buff to force people to bring DPS specs of the various classes. I mean, like, here's the optimal situation, right? The optimal situation might be that we want to bring one of everybody, right? You're like if you have, I mean, other than tanks and healers, you can only bring so many, right? You should want to bring all tanks and healers equally, right? Or maybe the comp offsets where one lacks, like they're better in this, but they're maybe not so good in this. We get this one to make up for it, so it's equal to what if we got two who were meta, right? So that's the situation for tanks and heals, right? Is you just want to kind of have a good enough balance there. There's enough flexibility there to where as long as they're halfway decent, you can make that work, right? But for DPS, for the most part, it's, are you providing something to the rest of the group? Are you providing something as a solo player where you're doing so much so you can make up for where at least one person lacks? That's usually like the hierarchy or some sort of hierarchy of system. Optimally, you'd want to bring one of every DPS type, right? At least, you know, maybe if you can kind of sneak it in there. And have that similar balance as you do with tanks and heals. Obviously, that's not going to be able to happen. But I think that still, with that being the case, if you are going to have specializations for DPS characters, this falls for demon hunters as well, and rogues and like whatever may have you. If you have multiple DPS specs and you're basically bringing either one, the non-meta build, and then two, your character is specifically set up for a certain type of fight, meaning like you're great in single target fights, you're great in AoE fights. What you're doing is you're going, okay, so for this raid, because more often than not I need this type of character, I'm not inviting this type of DK, or I'm not inviting this type of warrior to this type of fight. Because the majority of the fights play like this, I'd rather have this type of character. I think that's what it does to me. I think that there's a number of builds and we want all builds to be valuable in certain ways. I think that in a way, when they are different to matter of like one is really good for AoE, one's really good for single target, one's really good for these situations. I think it's all interesting, but there has to be a bit of balance. Like if you're gonna have blood TKs be fun to play and interesting to play with how their health bar just goes like this all the time, and you're going to have Frost DK, which is going to have an interesting playstyle as well, then Unholy has to have an equal set there. And that's the problem to me, ultimately, like looking back on it, like, or looking forward, is with a new possible Void Demon Hunter specialization. How much are we going to focus on this being the spec, and then we're going to have the same situation that rogues have between assassination and subtlety? And I mean, do people play combat? And then also with warrior, with fury and arms, it seems like we constantly have these situations where characters or classes with multiple DPS specs just struggle to either balance in a way to where they both equal out to being pretty close. Maybe one's on top, but like they're pretty close. Or secondarily, which is more commonly, is just one is just down in the dumps, and maybe people try to lift it up as best they can, but it's always going to be lesser. It's always going to be not as fun to play. It's always going to be just kind of lower on the DPS charts. And so all those things combined build this bias and build these things to where people just don't want to play these classes anymore, or play these specs anymore. So ultimately, looking forward, I would look at the Podyssey solution of providing a haste buff as a solution, but to a problem that Blizzard created, not a solution that people, I don't think, actually want. Like, I don't think what people really want is they want utility that is useful in raid, and this is where this group of people play the most, and so that's where they're going to want. That's what they're going to want from it instead. They want a buff instead. A raid-wide buff would be better for them. So this, to me, isn't what people are wanting. In reality, I think people just, I mean, going back to the first one, I think that in reality, people just want a system that works around, hey, I want a DK that manipulates diseases, and it kind of works around that. And I think like using the, I imagine like the minions and stuff like that and doing that. That's what the character class feel should be. So when it comes to a rework, I think that a lot of people would rather see, I want to see and feel that from how I play. And right now it doesn't feel like that. Right now it just feels like I'm just applying this everywhere I can, and it just feels tedious. So I totally get it. And so DKs, how'd I do? DKs, let me know, like, what do you think is the way to fix DKs as they stand? Where do you think they've gone wrong in this? And if you're like, hey, this is good, maybe I can come back and look at this and go, hey, people are saying that this in fact is a good change, or alternatively, this is a better change that I think people are recommending. I'd love to put that in the space, just be like, I put a poll out there and this is what people think they want. And I think this is the change that Unholy could see. Because as we start to get new specs that are getting, like for example, the Demon Hunters getting a new spec, and basically it's all but confirmed from what people seem to be saying. I think this is the fear that Demon Hunters should have. Now that like what about Havoc? Like what's gonna happen now? So so with that being said, what do you think is the ways to fix DKs right now, overall, or just specifically Unholy? Let me know in the comments. Of course, if you like this video, give it a like. Subscribe to the page while you're at it. Of course, check out our lives. We stream on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok right now, as well as we are in. We have a Discord where you can share content just like this. Specifically, the one I mentioned in this video was about Blizzard and them about basically having to monitor constant things. Got that straight from our post there, or straight from the forum post in there. So I read those all the time, and I would love for people to add stuff there so I can react to more stuff and add it to videos and stuff like that. So more videos coming soon. It's good to be back. I'm dizzy, I'm tired. And that's it for this one. But as per always, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.